Don't buy yourself liabilities. We all know if you have money, you want to buy yourself assets. Assets are something that generate you more money. But a lot of us are out here buying liabilities. And I'm not saying every purchase you have has to be perfectly optimized to buy you assets, because that's just not realistic, right? But a lot of people are out here buying liabilities. Car notes are a prime example of this. You know, cars are a depreciating asset. You first year you're going to lose huge amounts of value, depending on the car, of course, but on some of these newer cars, 30 to 50% in the first year is pretty common. There's been a few cars where I've seen where it's like 70% in the first year or two, where you go back and try to sell that car back, you're going to make a fraction of whatever your payments are on it. Those payments hit every month, right? You're basically giving yourself an extra bill. There are no bills that are beneficial to you, right? They are all drains on your income. If you're paying, I'm going to use round numbers here just for ease, but if you're paying $1,000 a month on bills, you know, whether that's rent or utilities or both, and that may be low. I understand in many parts of the US that is very low for rent, let alone rent and utilities, but just for the sake of easy numbers. And you make $2,000 a month, well, half your income is paying off liabilities. You add a loan payment on that, you're losing even more of your income. And that's the income that's got to, you know, put gas in your car, feed you, buy you whatever else you need during the month. So it's certainly, you know, what you if you can do anything to get your bills down, you're better off. You have more cash available. You can buy assets. You could put investments in. You could buy something that produces money, improve your skills through courses or something, right? But if you're out here buying things on like Afterpay or credit cards even, where you're not paying for them up front, you don't have the cash for them up front, but you will have to pay for them eventually, right? Those credit cards come due. Just paying the minimum balance is not enough. It will accrue way more in interest than you could ever pay off with just the minimum balance. And a lot of these credit cards are at like 25 to 30% APR, which is just absurd. You know, car notes I've seen up around that region on some videos, of course. But I think more reasonably, they're 12 to 14%, which is also absurd on a depreciating asset. So don't go out there buying yourself a liability with your money, right? Obviously, you have to buy certain things in life. In the US, you need a car in most places. There are some places in the US you don't, but you do generally need a car to get around. And so you'll have to buy one, but buy one that's reliable. And that is why Hondas and Toyotas are so expensive now, is because they are reliable. But even those, if you buy them on a car note, are a liability, right? Even though they're a reliable car, right? You still have to pay for maintenance, right? So maybe you're paying $500 a month in a car payment, but you still have to pay for gas, unless it's electric. And if it's electric, you got to pay for the electricity, whether that's at a charging station or at your house. Either of those will cost money in electricity. You've got to pay for whatever maintenance is required, any repairs that are necessary. So there are still costs associated with it on top of a car payment. It's just a massive liability on your finances. If you want to grow wealthy, you have to get rid of as many liabilities as possible. If you can keep your bills as low as possible, lower some of them as much as possible, you have more money to work with. You have more money to put towards building your future so that you don't have to continue working for the rest of your life, which I think most of us would prefer. That's not to say you don't do anything, right? That you just sit around and veg, but that you aren't forced to go to work. I think that's two different attitudes there. I don't think the people who look at, oh, when I retire, I just want to do nothing, last very long. I think we can all kind of agree that none of us really want to have to go to work every day until we're dead. And I think most of us would like to not have to do that, but a lot of people's spending habits do not line up with that. A lot of people do not spend in a way that will get them there. You know, a lot of people out there are buying liabilities. Don't be one of those. Buy yourself some assets if you can. At the very least, don't buy yourself liabilities, right? If we're going to look at it as, I wouldn't look at it as a sliding scale where on one end you have liabilities and on the other end you have assets. It's a sliding scale between zero liabilities and however many you have, and zero assets and however many you have. There's not really a negative end to it. It is capped at zero, which is good. You know, there's stuff where anything you can do to keep your monthly bills lower is beneficial because those are stuff you have to pay, right? And if you turn a payment, whether it's a car note, student loan repayment, credit card bill, afterpay bill, just reduce those. Spend as little as you can on those. If you have to do consolidation, get it at 0% APR, make as many payments as you can while it's at 0% APR. Because if you don't, you're then going to pay interest on more money and it's going to cost you more in the long run. So look out for your own finances. Nobody else will. In fact, most people will look to scam you out of a lot of money. I say scam, but most places will try to trap you into paying them more money. So don't do that. Look out for your own finances. Nobody else is going to. There is no way around it, right? And that's just life. You have to deal with that. But that also means you have to be willing to say no to yourself, no to certain things that you want but don't need and can't afford. It's very different if you can afford them, but if we're being honest, most people cannot afford most of the things they have, most of the lifestyle they have. And that's not a thing anybody likes to say, but it is the truth, right? Most of us can't afford to replace appliances every year or our phone every year. Whether or not people do is a different story, but most people cannot afford that. So you need to make do with what you've got. If it's not broke, don't replace it, right? Stick with your older car that's paid off or near paid off, and then stick with the car, right? Don't let yourself get trapped in the thought of, oh, I just need that new car. You don't. If your car works and is reliable, then stick with it. There's no need to replace it. There's no need to take on unnecessary debt. I know several people who every 3 years, they just get a new car. They trade in their old one, pick up a new one, make payments. I will freely admit, I do not understand why they do that. But from having spoken to one or two of them about it, just asking, like, oh, hey, you've got a new whatever. They're like, yeah, I had it paid off and I just got the itch. Just had to get a new one. So I went out and did it. I was like, that does not line up for me. I've been driving the same car, 200,000, right? You might want to start looking for, okay, I'm going to have to replace this soon and save up in advance. You don't have to take the car payment. Most of these dealerships make money off of financing. They don't make money off the car, which makes perfect sense because some of these cars have sat on their lot for so long. You'd think they would want to cut their prices, but they can't because they bought them at too high of a price from when cars in COVID were going for huge amounts of money, which, it's definitely a problem. There's definitely stuff that has to be done for it, but people keep buying them. So who knows? If you take anything from this video, just don't buy yourself liabilities. Do everything you can not to buy yourself liabilities, whether that's buying yourself a car note, buying yourself a credit card bill, buying yourself an afterpay payment, or any other form of debt that you can think of. Do what you can to avoid it. Obviously, there are some forms where, there's no way you're going to get a house without a mortgage. Fully understand. But avoid the unnecessary liabilities in life, and you will do way better with your finances than you would otherwise. Well, that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching. I hope this was useful to you, and I will see you in the next one.